Everything I've loved in this world, and even the curse that fell on me too.
Hello everybody, Infernape Shinjo here. Welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I'm going to be listing off my favorite archetypes from each Yu-Gi-Oh anime. This is a bit of an out there video, but it's definitely a video that I wanted to come up with. So, in each Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of duelists just use whatever cards they want, like Yugi for example. But a lot of them have a deck that have a solid theme, like Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragon for example. And they actually become real life cards or just an archetype all its own. So, I am here to list off my favorite archetype from each Yu-Gi-Oh! Although that's not entirely correct because I'm discounting 7 from this. Mainly because it's rush duel cards and they don't really have a solid deck. The only one that I could argue is 7's Road, but if that would be the case, then that would be the only one that I would choose. But the rules that I came up with are, they have to be shown in the series that I'm discussing, and an archetype is only eligible if there are at least 5 cards specifically used, and if there are 2 archetypes that exist in the show, hence why 7's isn't included. And for a lot of these, it's probably going to be super obvious, but for a couple of these, it was hard for me to choose which one I actually wanted to pick. But let me know yours down below, and let's get started. So for duel monsters, there was a lot of them, but I decided to go with the armor cards. I'm still upset to this day that the armor cards were never printed, but they are really cool. Granted, Valen made them look cool since he literally put them on like a suit of armor. But they're just really good. They're probably not going to be that good competitive because you'd have to just easily swarm the field with them. Although you could probably make them work with a pendulum deck. But they are just really cool. Another couple that I had in mind are the Guardians from the same Orichalco saga. And even the Toon Monsters. The Toon Monsters are just really fun in my opinion. And granted, they made them super busted in the anime since they couldn't be destroyed in battle. It's just really good. And before you ask, yes, Blue Eyes and Red Eyes were also considered, but I didn't want my list to be too predictable. So for GX, the runner-up that I had in mind are the Viacroids. I really like Cyrus's Viacroids, but what I decided to go with are the Ancient Gears. Probably not a shock if you've seen any of my Yu-Gi-Oh videos here, but I love the Ancient Gears. I don't know what it is. As obvious as you could probably tell throughout this video, I just love machine decks. And I love how the Ancient Gear cards just keep on getting support to this day. And Crowler made them really menacing. I especially love Gadgetron Dragon because I love playing Gear Town, destroying it with my MST, and just bringing out a Gadgetron Dragon easily. But at the same time, the regular Ancient Gear cards used in the anime were really good. I love how Crowler, even though he didn't duel much, he was able to use Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem in his final duel against Jaden. That was really cool. And just, the Ancient Gears are powerful. No spell and traps when they attack. Golem does piercing damage. It's just a menace. So for 5Ds, it was probably the toughest one. Because there are a lot of decks in 5Ds that I really like. But what I decided to go with are the Morphtronics. Probably an out there pick, I'm sure it is, but I just like the Morphtronics. The fact that they have effects in attack and defense mode are just really unique, and with cards like Selphon, you can have it in defense mode, search out the top cards of your deck depending on the role, put them back in whatever order you want, and then flip it to attack mode, use that effect again, and play an extra monster. Although this might be biased since Leo is one of my favorite characters from the show. Probably not in the top 5, but definitely a good character. And I just like Power Tool Dragon. Power Tool Dragon is definitely a really cool monster. Now granted, Power Tool Dragon doesn't technically work with the Morphtronics. I associate it with the Morphtronics because of Leo. So for full transparency, next up is Zexal, and I've actually been watching a lot of Zexal episodes recently. I watched the episode where Yuma dueled Vetrix. I watched a lot of random filler episodes. I watched when Kite was first introduced. So I'm fondly remembering Zexal. And the deck that I decided to go with are the Battling Boxers. I was actually tempted to go with the heroics at first. Actually, fourth wall break, the heroics were the answer, which is why they're silhouetted on the thumbnail. But then I remembered the battle and boxers exist. I really like the whole concept of the deck. And I like how Lead Yoke is just amazing of a monster. He's a really good boss monster, even though his effect is a little bit underwhelming, since the only way you can keep it sustained on the field is play cards to keep on giving him overlay units to give him more attack points and more attack points, because realistically from his own effect, the strongest he can get is 3800 without equip spells, but it's just a really good deck overall. And I think that might be in part thanks to Alito, because he is one of my favorite variants. But I do like the heroic monsters as well. They all look really menacing, and at the same time, I do gotta give a hand to Kite's Galaxy Eyes monsters. So for Arc 5, I didn't actually write this down, but a runner-up is definitely the Fluffle cards. The Fluffles, the what are they called? The Edge Imp monsters? They're really cool, but I decided to go with the Speedroids. Yeah, you can definitely see a theme here. But the Speedroids are just really cool. I love Synchro monsters, they're just really cool. Kendama is one of my personal favorites, which is why it's here. But I just like the Speedroids in general. I like how it's a nice little reference to Yusei with Clearwing Synchro Dragon, which is a really cool monster. And the fact that they just swarm the field like nobody's business, like literally when I played Duel Links, I first turn Horse Stilts, use its effect, Special Summon Red Eye Dice, change the horse to level 5, tune to bring out Kendama easy. Or I could even go into my higher level plays, or lower level plays like Puzzle. But yeah, in a show like Arc 5 where I wasn't exactly a fan of it, the Speedroids definitely helped. And finally for Vrains, I'm probably not as surprised to even say this at this point, so I'll give the runner-up first. Runner-up is probably the Salaman Greats. I didn't really give a spot for a runner-up, but they're really good. I also do like the Marincas to an extent, even though I'm not familiar with how Link monsters work entirely. But what I went with are the Rockets. I know Borreload isn't technically a rocket monster, but Revolver used both of them, so I'm counting it. Revolver is a really good character in my opinion. I really like the Rockets. And yeah, if you haven't figured out the common denominator between most of these decks so far, they are all machine sort of based. Probably not a surprise considering the first competitive deck that I ever built were Ancient Gears, so everything just kind of snowballed from there. I really like the Rockets, and I like how you can run them as Link, just plain Link, or you could even throw in the Synchro, the Fusion, whatever other cards they have, I'm not exactly sure. But they're just really cool, and the fact that they get their effects off when they're destroyed is just really unique. But that is my video on favorite archetypes from each Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your favorite from each one. I'm sure there are decks from each series that I forgot to mention. And if I did, then feel free to let me know them down in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Momentai.